Now, this review has been quite a long time coming. When I first read the announcement in, I think it was November 2010, I was actually quite interested. I mean, for the past few years, there's been a bit of a decline for Mario. When New Super Mario Bros. Was announced for the DS about 5 or 6 years ago, I was excited, but that turned out to be a huge disappointment, which it had about as much in common with classic Mario games as Call of Duty does with Solitaire. New Super Mario Bros. Wii was a little bit more polished, but essentially the same old cookie cutter shit, really. Like a poor man's version of the classic games, devoid of any charm or personality. Now, Super Mario Galaxy on the Wii was actually a really terrific game. It wasn't as good as Sunshine, and it wasn't very original. It was more like a refined Mario 64 with a huge pinch of Sonic spread all over it. But it was extremely well crafted, well polished, fantastically scored, and it had a wonderful atmosphere and level design, which is so absent from modern games. But then Nintendo had to fuck it all up by releasing a sequel cum expansion pack less than 3 years later. And what's really hilarious about this is that Nintendo said upon the release of Galaxy that a lot of material was cut because it wasn't up to standard, and they focused all of their creative energies on making the perfect product. So essentially Galaxy 2 was a slapdash collective of ideas which weren't good enough for the first game. Add to this the only real gameplay change is the addition of Yoshi in about 5 levels, meaning the biggest selling point of the game is the same as it was 2 decades ago. Anyway, returning to the point, despite Mario's patchy recent catalogue, don't even get me started on Stagnation Party 9 and Regression Kart 7, I thought the first batch of screenshots looked kind of interesting. But then E3 came, and all my hopes for this game vanished. It's fair to say my hopes for this game were non-existent, and a very bad demo at Game Fest did little to sway my opinion. Then came release day, and I decided to pick it up so I could fairly review it. Now, there's no denying that Mario 3D Land is an attractive game to the casual gamer. Strong primary colours and finely crafted 3D models are everywhere, and nothing looks unfinished or underdone. However, the game still uses the same fucking art style the franchise has been stuck in since New Super Mario Bros. Over 5 years ago. Everything is so cookie cutter, and this essentially looks like Mario Galaxy but rougher. Now, do you remember Super Mario Land? Remember how the art style for that game was completely different to the console games? Remember Super Mario Land 2? Remember how that was completely different to the first Mario Land? Now, the problem with the series now is that the visuals of every game all blend into one, essentially weakening the brand because the games are all indistinguishable. They don't have their own unique look anymore. They just all look the same. And like every game for the 3DS, the 3D effect adds absolutely nothing other than a migraine or making you feel like you're reading a pop-up book, which, unless you're 5 years old, I assume you don't want to. Bowser kidnaps Peach. Save her. I'm not fucking kidding. The music on this game is fine. It's not great, it's not bad, it's just fine. It is what it is. It actually just feels like New Super Mario Bros., but even less memorable. So essentially, the big selling point of this game is 2D gameplay in a 3D world. Newsflash, Nintendo, this is bullshit. If I wanted to play 2D Mario, I would play a 2D Mario. If I want to play 3D Mario, I want to play 3D Mario. I spoke about Galaxy before having fresh level design, and this is true to an extent. I loved it for what it was, but it never needed to be repeated. Galaxy's biggest problem is that it brought this crazy new idea to the 3D Mario games. Linearity. This is just ridiculous. On the average Star Quest on Galaxy, you're pretty much following a straight path for the entire stage. Now, Galaxy mixed this up with unique challenges and puzzles, which was fine for a one-off, But 3D Land drops this to whole new depths. You spend 95% of the game following a straight course along either the y-axis or the x-axis, with very, very little variation. Now, this would be fine if it was a bonus stage or a secret area, but this is the substance of the entire game. Mario 64 and Sunshine are still regarded as two of the finest platforming experiences of all time, and Mario 64 in particular is seen as the pioneer of 3D platforming. There's a reason for this. The levels were about exploring. Exploration was the key to the fun. Huge toy boxes within which you could run around and explore to your heart's content, finding hidden secrets and bonuses years after you buy the game. You felt like you could really go anywhere and do anything. Mario 3D Land shatters this because it suffers from Sonic Unleashed syndrome. Thin corridors suspended over bottomless pits. It seems the regression started in Galaxy and has now sunk to new lows in this game. Then we have the power-ups. Boomerang Mario? Really? Christ, it's just Fire Mario but slower. And of course, the one everyone's talking about, the return of the Tanuki suit. Remember when Super Mario Bros. 3 came out? What was the one thing everyone was hyped about? Mario can fucking fly. Grab the leaf, fill your stamina meter up, and fly up into the air. Did anyone give a shit about the slow descent or the attack that it gave you? Well, yeah, but that was second fiddle to the mind-blowing feature of a flying Mario. So can someone please tell me why the long-awaited return of this suit after over 2 decades only gives us slow descent and attack? That's it. You cannot fly with the Tanuki suit. That was the entire point. Oh, wait, that's why. Because it would show how shallow and linear the level design is. They wouldn't want you seeing that from above, would they? Now, I'm not saying it's all bad. I mean, there were a couple of levels which were actually really fun, and the special worlds were definitely a lot better than the normal worlds. But here's the thing. Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 had levels and moments which were really fun, but it's still an atrocious game. The sum of its parts don't make up for the whole feature. I should also mention the controls. See, they try to mimic 2D control, and so the analog stick doesn't actually let you run. No, you need to hold the dash button, just like in the old days. Great fun, huh? Making you permanently hold your thumb down on a button for hours on end when there's a perfectly good fucking analog thumb pad you're using anyway. Also, the backflip emulates the squat jump from Super Mario Bros. 2. You need to hold down the crouch button for at least 3 seconds before Mario builds up his strength, and then you can backflip with almost no mid-air directional control, turning a once invaluable acrobatic move into a pointless slow jump you'll rarely ever use. Super Mario 3D Land may as well be called Super Mario Half Galaxy. Although, to be fair, it takes a stale format and somehow manages to make it even more derivative and dull, so I guess it deserves some respect for that feat. If you've never played a Mario game before, get a good Mario game, like Mario 64, but not the trashy DS port. No. If you are a Mario fan who loves the franchise and is lapping this up just as you do every day with the latest Mario game, ask yourself a question. Why? Why are you enjoying this? Do you think it's good that Nintendo have diluted the franchise to the point where it's hard to even distinguish between games? Remember back when every single Mario game offered something totally different? Isn't that why you liked it in the first place? I know that's why I did. All the Mario games offered something fresh, and with each new game I had a totally new experience, which was very differentiated from the last. 15 years ago, Super Mario 64 changed gaming forever. Today, the fact I have to look at the guy who got me into gaming with the original Super Mario Bros. Regress into this, it almost makes me want to cry.